Welcome to Coffee and Geography, where my guests and I geek out about the world and everything on it, discovering that we are all geographers in some way, shape or form. I'm your host, Kit, and my pronouns are they, them or she, her. So settle down with a brew, hit that subscribe or follow button, and enjoy the listen. Hello everybody, welcome to Coffee and Geography, and if you're wondering why it's sounding a little bit echoey, it's because I am currently located in quite a nice office actually, 1950s concrete office, but it's got a lovely beautiful window. I've got someone here in front of me with 3 monitor screens because I'm sat in one of the PhD offices at the School of Environmental Sciences here at University of Anglia, because I'm with my friend and my colleague Conor Rutland. Hey Conor.
Hi Kit.
So thanks for inviting me into your humble abode. I mean, how much time do you spend here out of the average week? Is it more time than you'd want, or?
I'm here pretty much, all day, every day. 9 to 5 pretty much. Occasionally work from home, but most of the time I'm in here.
Yeah, and at the moment it's just yourself. But I'm just looking around this office, folks, and we've got origami everywhere. I tell you what, that's what we're going to talk about a bit later when I asked you about like your hidden talent. We'll talk about your origami skills a bit later. But to introduce Conor, everybody. So Conor is a PhD student at the University of Anglia, researching seismic hazards in the Tibetan Plateau. He has a background in teaching physics and spends time and also spent time working as an outreach officer, raising aspirations of underrepresented young people towards higher and further education. And that's how we met, because for quite a while we were work colleagues.
Certainly were.
So you did my day job. We worked together in that. But you've made the transition to being a PhD student. So you went from teaching to the outreach job, kind of similar to me, with a gap in the middle, as you know, with me. But then you decided that this PhD came up, and you thought, I'm going to go for it. Yeah. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But first of all, let's talk about you being here in Norwich.
Yeah.
So tell us a little about your connection to Norwich. Is it have you been a Norfolk person through and through? Are you from another part of the country? And if you are from the other part of the country, what kind of how has that formed your identity?
No, I am Norfolk through and through. Been here all my life, other than the 3 years that I was doing my undergrad degree. That was at Warwick. So other than those 3 years living over there, I've been Norwich all my life.
So were you definitely a Norfolk lad then when you went to Warwick? Was it like obvious to everyone else, and did you bring a bit of Norfolk with you?
Yeah, I think so. It's funny, it's one of them places that actually you speak to obviously you know it because we live here, but you speak to lots of people and you say, yeah, I'm from Norwich, and you just get, oh, where's that? Yeah, it's true. It's funny. Stuck out here in the middle of East Anglia, but
so what? Yeah, I mean, when you were having these like little bit of banter with your uni mates, like what was you trying to tell them about this part of the world then? Like, first of all, trying to describe where it is.
Yeah, that's it. Describe where it is. Describe how difficult it is to get in and out of, and all of the wonderful things that we have around here, all the countryside and the close to the coast, and a nice little city in the middle of it as well.
So what makes you then a Norfolk lad, do you think?
What makes me a Norfolk lad? Well, I just enjoy Norfolk, enjoy being here, enjoy the countryside, enjoy being outside in the fresh air, like I say, out by the coast, out in the fields somewhere.
Listeners know that I've once I moved up here in 2001, crikey. I've pretty much been living in Norfolk. So I'm actually more Norfolk than Essex now, because I've spent more than half my life living up here than I have down in Essex or North London. Yeah, he claims you. So I don't know if you call me a Norfolk lass or whatever, a Cockney Norfolk hybrid. I don't know, but so let's talk about the kind of work that you're doing now, because like I must admit, Conor, when you told us that you were handing your notice to do a PhD, I was slightly jealous, I admit. It's something that I've wanted to do for a while, but I did apply for. Do you know I actually applied? Did I tell you I actually applied for a PhD?
No,
at
one point.
So yeah, this was. I mean, I probably knew it wasn't going to be. It was going to be very competitive. So just to give folks kind of an idea of the kind of stuff that you can do at places like the University of Anglia in environmental science. So the PhD I applied for was about seal migration patterns around Antarctica.
Interesting.
The Weddell seals. And actually, I looked at it, and it was actually on the encouragement of a friend from here, from UEA, a lecturer, who said, you should go for this kit. And I'm like, I'm a high school teacher, as I was at the time. I haven't done a master's. I've only done an undergraduate. But I taught a lot about Antarctica, and I had a lot of good background knowledge, and I was actually encouraged to apply for it. And it was just an absolutely wonderful opportunity. I thought, why not? And I found out I was actually shortlisted for the final lot. But I think there was somebody a bit more qualified than me, to be honest. So for people who are not quite sure then, Conor, people maybe have heard of PhDs, and they've heard, is there a doctor in the house? Yes, I am. No, not that one.
Yeah.
So for folks who don't really know, what in the world is a PhD? So it's a postdoctorate degree, but what is it?
What is it? So effectively, you are spending 3 to 4 years, if you're on a sort of full-time PhD, researching a particular niche in a subject area that's of interest to you and of interest in some way to the wider scientific community. You're doing research into something that the whole idea of a PhD is that you're contributing new knowledge to the wider scientific community. So you're researching something that hasn't been looked at before, or maybe a new spin on something that has. In order to, after 3 or 4 years, produce this massive book of a thesis that contains all the research you've done. I mean, as well as that, it's an opportunity. It's a training. It is training as well. So whilst you are doing this research, you're also making yourself into a better scientist and gaining skills that, whether you want to go into science kind of afterwards or not, gaining skills that are going to help you in whatever you want to do after your PhD as well.
And it's, I've spoken to quite a few people who are either doing PhDs or having done a PhD, and I haven't actually, that's the first time I've actually asked the question, what is a PhD? Other than that, it's been people telling me about their PhD, and first thing we've got to tell you, people are like, okay, Kit, but what is Conor doing? So what is the title or your working title of your PhD then?
So my working title is Ground Deformation Before and After Large Earthquakes for Seismic Hazard Assessment.
Crikey, that's a mouthful, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a mouthful. I can kind of break it down a bit if you want.
Right, so folks, I want you to, if you press that little rewind by 30 seconds button, right? And just listen to Conor again and try and figure out each of those individual words, right? Do that now, and then Conor can say, right, let's take that to pieces then, Conor. So first of all, you had the word of deformation.
Yeah.
Now, for a lot of people listening, probably, especially in the current political climate, defamation, they're probably thinking of like throwing someone's character on the bus. But what does that mean in terms of your work?
Yeah, so rather than defamation, we're deformation. So we're literally talking about the ground, subtle movements in the ground, effectively. So over a long period of time, the ground will slowly kind of move due to plate tectonics. In the lead up to an earthquake. So that's that first bit.
Ooh, so we've already got a hint. So people are probably listening and saying, oh, you're saying about a niche bit of research, what applications this may have. People are thinking, okay, earthquake prediction perhaps. We know that is a massive uncertainty. It's almost, it isn't impossible, but it's almost impossible to predict these kind of things. So okay, could this be a potential way into that? Okay, right, so then we go on to the next bit of your title then. So
where are we? Ground deformation before and after large earthquakes.
Okay, this one's a bit more straightforward, but you can let us know anyway.
Yeah, that's it. So basically I'm looking at long-term patterns in the lead up to an earthquake to kind of, see if you can, and I'm looking at a particular case study as well, so I'm looking at the long sort of over 3 or 4 years in the lead up to this earthquake. Were there any patterns in how the ground moved and changed in the lead up? And then afterwards, how did the ground then move after, kind of relax after the earthquake had happened? and that can then, using that information, that can tell you information about the crust and about the kind of dynamics of what's happening in the region, to better understand what has happened, and therefore hopefully better understand what may or what could happen in the future.
Yeah, and what really strikes me, and I'm hoping people pick up this as well, is that when you describe it like that, it just goes to show how fluid, what we think is solid and stable, and that is rock, that's geology. It is very fluid, it's very malleable. When you look at it in this way and you look at it in this scale. So you pop some stuff on the screen for us here, Conor, and we've got, so just to describe it to folks, so we've got four panels here, and they're kind of like looking at a certain longitude and latitude. So if you picture a square, folks, and then along the bottom there you've got your longitude, along the y-axis you've got your latitude. So we're looking at roughly, let's see if people can figure it out. So we're looking roughly at late 92s, 93 degrees east and 33 degrees north. So folks, if you can figure out where that is, a bit of a quiz for you. So Conor's pulling up Google Earth now. So if we go to 93 degrees east and 33 degrees north, where is that going to put us, Conor?
It's going to put us, if I can get Google Earth over here, it's going to put us right about here, and I know obviously you can't see that, those listening, but
so people can still give them a chance to figure it out.
That's it. So right about here, which is in the kind of eastern region of the Tibetan Plateau. So kind of north of India, Nepal, Bhutan, all of that, and sort of north of the Himalayas, and to the west of kind of mainland China as well.
Yeah. So folks, if you think of the Himalayan mountain range as a smile, this is the way I used to describe it, and then the kind of like the bit of the smile which upticks to the person's left. It's kind of right up there. So to the person's left and your right as you're looking at the person. So it's just above that, the uptick of that smile there. Yeah, nice. So that's the location that you're looking at. And so we've got this square on the left. We've got, wow, it almost looks like the pride colours almost. You've got from deep red all the way up to deep blue, and it's just like a kaleidoscope of those colours, but there is a pattern. So what's this one saying us? We've got, it's measured in radians, but I mean, even so, I mean, I did a bit of geodynamics. I kind of figured what it is, but what are we looking at here? And what are these deep blues going into, fading through yellow into deep reds represent?
So this diagram here is called an interferogram.
Ooh.
So if you Google that, you'll find loads of kind of examples of similar things. Interferogram. So the technique that I'm using to look at these earthquakes is called INSAR. And what you're effectively doing is taking two satellite images of the same location some time after one another. In this case, it's about 10 days. So you take you've got one satellite image, you take another one about 10 days later, and you then plug that data into some software, and it effectively compares the two and shows you the difference between those two images.
Right.
So this first image here is the kind of raw, what that spits out, which it's measured in radians because we're talking about radar here. So we're talking about the phase of an electromagnetic wave.
Okay.
So this is kind of this one's it's harder to read, but effectively where you've got these kind of cycles of the rainbow, the closer together those cycles are, the more the ground has moved.
Okay.
In those 10 days. So that's obviously quite difficult to read, which is why we can then use ones like this one on the right.
So we've got a second square, same area, but this one, there's far fewer colours. So this one now, you've got a scale going from deep blue through light blue, green, yellow, and it's just touching orange. And this one you've got measured in millimetres. So we've got 0 millimetres is basically light green. And it goes through yellow to orange as you go up to 2 millimetres, and then it goes deeper and deeper blue as you go -2 millimetres, -4 millimetres, deepest blue -6. And right in the middle, we've got this big blue splodge. We've got a big blue splodge in the middle, kind of, if you imagine watercolours, folks, watercolour painting. Someone, your kid has just dabbed a blue and it's like spread out and it's faded out blue as you go along. And just below that, we've got some small patches of 2 patches of orange and yellow. So what is this showing us then?
So this is actually the same image. It's just been converted from this satellite in radians into units that we can easily kind of understand. So this one's, as you say, in millimeters, and basically this overall, you can see it's mostly kind of green, not a lot happening over most of the image here, but this blue splodge in the middle is a big patch of ground deformation due to an earthquake.
Nice.
So you can see here it goes up to around about 6 millimeters of movement in this patch, and then a couple of millimeters in this patch down here.
Yep. So it's plus is the ground risen and minus the ground fallen, or is it not as simple as that?
It's actually the opposite in this case, because what you're actually looking at is, if you imagine you are the satellite,
Yep.
if the ground has moved minus 6 millimeters, that means it's moved towards you.
Right.
So if you imagine you are the satellite looking at the ground, minus 6 is that's moved up towards you, whereas plus 2 is it's moved 2 millimeters away from you.
Right, so over that space of about 10 square kilometres, there's been a net shift of about 8 or 9 millimetres. But, okay, so people, this is, I get the same when we come to climatology and climate change. People say, 0.5 degrees, 1 degree Celsius. It doesn't sound like anything. It changes that during the day. But, obviously for climate average, that's quite a fair bit. When you look at this and you say to someone that it's moved, it's deformed by minus 6 millimetres, people might go, no, that's not that much, is it? It's like that much. But in terms of geology, comment on that for us. Would you say that's quite a bit of a shift?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, this is a relatively small earthquake. This is one that I've just been kind of doing some testing on. So this was only about a magnitude 5 earthquake. So this, as you say, over the space of about 10 kilometres square, a couple of millimetres, and this couple of millimetres has happened in one shift. So this is, the earthquake occurring. Whereas, plates in general move millimetres over the course of years, usually, over a much longer kind of period of time. So this shift happening in a very short space of time, it is a lot, and it's enough to send the shockwaves through the earth that you feel when you have an earthquake.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, it's almost like a fingerprint, isn't it? It's a fingerprint of movement there. And when we used to teach high school, you physics and me geography, of course the fact we used to use quite a lot with plate tectonics is for kids to look at their fingernails and say, right, can you see your fingernails grow? Well, not over the course of a lesson, but definitely over the course of a few days.
Exactly.
That's the rate that the Atlantic is spreading.
That's it.
So it doesn't seem like much, but then when you look at it on a massive scale, regional scale, global scale, and you see all these formations, you've got the Himalayas, you've got the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, that's what accumulates over time. So these are big movements of shift, and of course, a magnitude, you said, so this was a 5, was it something?
I think it's 5.4 or something like that.
Yeah, that's not a small earthquake. I mean, that's the kind of one which can start to hit the news if it hits very vulnerable places.
Definitely.
Right, so we've got 2 more on the right-hand side here. This one, it looks like, the best way to describe this, folks, is a grayscale image, but it's almost like this could be your bathroom tiles, isn't it? So it's like various shades of grey, but then you've got like these kind of like darkening grey, black veins that run through this. So I'm not even going to. Are they upland areas?
Effectively, this is so these are the same location again. This is an image before and after the earthquake, and what this is actually showing is again kind of how much general movement there's been in between that time. So where darker areas on the image, there's been more change effectively. Right. So this is an image from before the earthquake where you can see largely there's not a lot going on. You can kind of see some features. Whereas after the earthquake, in particular, there's this long kind of dark line that has formed here. That, if I were to overlay that onto one of these other images, it would correspond exactly with where that deformation was.
Wow.
So what this is actually the surface kind of rupture of the fault.
That's incredible.
being viewed from a satellite image, and this is around about 3.5 kilometers long, I think, if you measure that.
Not small then.
No.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. Yeah, so folks, it looks like the second image looks like the contrast has gone up, but the scale is the same. So you see, there's been changes there. So those almost like black veins have got darkened. But yeah, Connor's just pointed out like almost like a hairline fracture kind of thing, which is going north to south. Yeah, kind of a slight angle, but about 3 and a bit kilometres. Crikey!
You can't see in this.
You can't see in the first one.
Suddenly appeared after the earthquake, so that's yeah. But that's kind of just to give an example. Yeah, the sorts of images and data that I'm working with effectively is these images. But over, as I say, I'll be looking at large earthquakes and looking at this over a long period of time.
Sure.
So it's effectively collections of these images every 10 days for the years in the lead up to an earthquake to monitor those really subtle changes in the lead up. That's
pretty cool. So, a couple of questions for you then. So, people listening to this, because when I was growing up, and especially if there's any young people listening or teachers listening, working with young people, whenever you hear like PhD, all that kind of stuff, you think of like the absolute echelon, top of the top, the brainiest, boffing people in the world, right? Because my first experience of knowing what the word PhD was that of my aunt Susan, who went to Japan to do her PhD, and she was looking at cancer T cells, and I actually managed to flick through her thesis when she had finished it. I was very young at this time, but it was like a different language to me, and so I had that imprint on me that a PhD was only for people who were far more clever and intelligent than I thought I was. So when you applied for this PhD, was it a case of, you're already an expert in this, that you know what you do, you know what you're looking for, you've got that background knowledge? Or is it a case of you have to grind a bit, you've got to learn a bit, you don't have to be ultra clever in this because it is something that you pick up on the time. So go back into your outreach mode, yeah? When we're talking, imagine we're talking to kids about trying to encourage them into going towards this stuff. What would you say to these kids who think, I'm not clever enough to do this kind of stuff?
What it might be useful to do is kind of, if I give you a quick, my kind of how I got here, might be useful
brilliant.
At this point.
Yeah, great idea.
Because I definitely didn't take the traditional route into doing a PhD, where you go to uni, you do your undergrad, you do well in that, you do a master's, you do well in that, and then you go on to a PhD. That wasn't my route at all. So I, as we've mentioned, I was a physics teacher earlier, or previously, and I did physics as my undergrad degree. So I didn't have any background in geography or anything like that. So this has all come later. But so I did my undergrad in physics, did okay in that, but it wasn't really kind of what I felt driven that I wanted to carry on with and into masters and that sort of thing. So that was when I gave teaching a go. Taught physics for 4 years if you include the training year. But that was when I kind of started thinking about going back into study. But I knew that it wasn't just physics that I wanted to do. So I then applied. So I'd been teaching, as I say, I'd been out of study for 4 years at this point. I then applied to do a master's, and that was in geophysical hazards. So it's something related to the physics that I'd been doing, but had this this kind of twist on it, was looking at something a little bit more tangible in the real world. So it was looking at different hazards, earthquakes, volcanoes, weather, all sorts. So that was what I then did. I finished my master's, and I then was thinking about applying for PhDs, and I applied for a couple and wasn't successful first time round. Applied for another couple, got a little bit further. I got sort of shortlisted, but didn't end up getting funded for them. And that was actually that was then the year that I started the outreach work. And following that, then reapplied for a third. So this is 3 years of applications that I've had to do before actually getting here. And that's, and all of this stuff that that we've been talking about, that I've been showing you. I didn't know anything about. Well, not nothing, but all the kind of techniques and methods and specifics of the stuff that I'm looking at. No, didn't have a clue. Yes, I had a general background in earthquakes and a background in the physics, and putting that background knowledge together into something that it's using the skills and other knowledge and wider kind of things that you've got that you can then apply to these more specific problems that you might have in a PhD. So it's not about being, it's not about, as you say, already being an expert in all of this stuff before you start. It's as much a training process as it is anything else.
Yeah.
So no one's expecting you to be an expert in this stuff. It's just about having the kind of background knowledge and background skills that you can then apply to this PhD, and that's what people are looking for when you're applying.
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, that makes more and that story makes total sense why I was encouraged to apply for that PhD myself, because they thought they needed a bit of an outside the box way of approaching it. But yeah, so I mean, so there you go, folks. It's a case of, why not? And I think what the thing that really stretched out to me there, Conor, is the persistence. Like you didn't give up. It took years for you to get to this point to do this, and also, of course, PhDs can be so, as you said already, can be so niche and so specific that not only are you looking to do a PhD in general, you're looking to do one that could be fulfilling and motivating for 3, potentially 4 years.
Exactly.
And we know that, I mean, we both know for our work as physics and geography teachers and just what we do, that this kind of work can have, well, most PhDs, if not all PhDs, can have real world, real life applications, and for all we know, years down the line, the work that you're doing here, you might stumble upon something which actually can lead to saving lives in tectonically active areas. So do you kind of like try and remember that when you're sitting here in the 9 till 5 grind?
Yeah, definitely. You've got to kind of think about the wider and why you're doing it as well. As not necessarily always about the outcome of the the implications of your research. So obviously, because like you say, there is a chance that what you're doing will have that real big impact. But most of the stuff, the impacts are going to be small, but they're still there.
Yeah.
It's everything's built up kind of in increments. But yeah, it's about, you've got to remember why you're doing it, why you're here, and that the fact that you get there as well means that, as you say, it's a competitive process, and just being able to get onto a course and being able to be sat here is kind of a privilege in itself. And yeah, so like you say, when you're sat there in the grind, kind of stuck into some data or into some reading or whatever it might be, you've definitely got to think about why you're actually doing it.
Yeah. I mean, when I was doing my dissertation for my undergraduate degree about North Sea storms, I absolutely loved it. I tried to merge human and physical aspects, so risk perception on the North Sea coast, but there were some aspects of it where I was struggling to get my head around, and it was so difficult, and like using this new spectral analysis on this new data set. So that's the other thing as well. It's like I was given a brand new data set that the University of Anglia had compiled, and no one had touched it at all. No one had processed it whatsoever. And they said, Kit, here's an opportunity for you. You're going to be the first person to actually make some use of this data set. We've got plans for it, but we want to see what you're going to do with it.
Yeah.
And that was exciting. So, yeah, I mean, it was a dissertation. It was just to show that I can do a research project and stuff like that and have some independence. But also, I broke the ground on that data set, which then was used for something else, which and that's what it's all about. It's all the components as well. I mean, the methodology that you use. When you come to appraise your methodology, then the next research is going to pick up and refine that and improve upon that, or say, well, that part of this, interferencegram or is not as applicable as we thought it would be, but this part of it was quite useful, and that's how science evolves and moves forward. So thanks for showing that to us, Conor. That's absolutely brilliant. Before we go for a little wander around the campus, and we're going to end the podcast chat with a brew rather than start it as usually, I just want you to spill the beans a little bit, right? Okay. So on the shelves around here, we've got dozens of origami. Now, I'm going to picture this, folks, right? Conor and I worked, what we had to do for the university is work for outreach and things. We had to work something called a clearing shift, right? And that is laughing. And so clearing is when people who get their A-level results, whatever, they ring up and they say, do you still have courses for this or another? Do my qualifications allow me in? Because they may have not got their first choice, or they may have just decided at the last minute they do want to go to university, whatever. But there can be a little bit of time before a call comes in or a live chat comes, isn't it? So you took to some origami, these dinosaurs and cranes and stuff like that, and you ended up with a nice little posse of dinosaurs on the table, on your clearing table. But since then, Conor, you've now got a hell of a lot more.
I do.
So tell us a bit about this origami skill that you've got then.
Well, I think, like I say, that kind of kicked it off a little bit, the dinosaurs at clearing, when, like I say, you've got a bit of downtime waiting for that call to come in. So what do you do? Well, let's fold some paper, why not? That could be fun. And it's a bit addictive once you start. And then, I think when I don't know how it came up in conversation at some point, just talking about origami with some of our other sort of PhD friends as well. And so we all sat down one I think it was around Christmas time. We all just sat down one afternoon and just had a bit of an origami session.
And an origami hackathon.
Yeah, that's it. And made a few. So you mentioned the shelf that's got about 20 or 30 probably dinosaurs mainly on there.
Was that a unicorn? I can see that. Or one with
that's
the green.
So I mentioned we made them around Christmas time. That's a T-Rex wearing a Christmas hat.
I love it.
And so
that tiny one.
So this tiny one, this one isn't mine. So one of my friends, Alice, is really good at making stegosauruses. So there are, if you look over there, about half of the ones over there are stegosauruses.
That's incredible.
And the really small ones are very impressive.
So this folks. So if I lay it on so this basically just goes down. Yeah, so 2 joints of a finger. So from the fingernail just down to the middle joint of my finger. That is my goodness, that's not even bigger than my fingernail. Okay, this is about about twice, just under twice the length of my biggest fingernail. And you say that's not even the smallest one?
No, sorry, this one is.
Oh, that is the smallest one.
The one you had earlier wasn't. Yeah, no, but these ones are beyond my abilities.
Come on, you've got to catch up. She's way ahead of you here. This reminds me of my friend, my close friend Carrie, who can do very small origami, and I've still got the little origami bunny that she gave me in 2002. Still,
very nice.
So it's lovely. Right, enough of that nonsense. Should we go take a walk?
Let's have a wander.
Let's go for it.
Hi folks, a chance for you to recharge your brew, but also a polite prod to remind you that it's so easy to support this podcast. Simply liking, sharing, rating and reviewing means that it will get on more people's radar. Also, there are a few links down in the description which may be of mutual benefit. Please do check them out.
So Conor and I are going for a bit of a wander, a place we know very, very well. So do excuse the little wind blasts, folks. I'll try and get that out post-edit, but we'll see. So we've got this really strange setup here at the University of East Anglia, haven't we, where we've got a concrete walkway, and what really does confuse people is the flooring system. Because the walkway level is floor 0, and if you go down that, we go 0, 1, 0, 2, and then up it, you go 1, 2. Yeah. So, so we've got the beautiful ziggurats behind us. So you got your keep cup then?
Of course.
Yep. Right, after you first.
Can I have a flat white, please? Yes. Cheers.
A flat white?
Yeah.
Keeping it simple.
Drink of choice.
That's your drink of choice. I'm quite tempted. So this is so we're in a place called Ziggy's, one of the many places you can grab a drink or something to eat here on campus. Oh, chocolate. I quite fancy a caramel shortbread, but I don't know. I technically should be on a diet.
I was tempted.
Gluten-free banana loaf. Yeah. Hi there. Can I have a chai latte, please? And Spiced, please. Yep. And could I also have a gluten-free banana loaf?
Yeah.
Thank you. So what they do very nicely here is that the jacket potatoes are pretty nice here. I like the jacket potatoes. They're only like
That's
£1.50 or £2 or
That's
something.
it. Yeah, they're good value to be fair. Yeah.
So we've had a nice little walk around camp. There's a lot of building work going on at the moment because the Lasden Wall, which is a listed graded building, like was built in the 50s, is in a bit of a state of disrepair.
Yeah.
So there's scaffolding
Just
all
a
over the
bit.
place at the moment.
Yeah.
But I was just really thinking back to our time, your time as an outreach officer, jobs that I still do. I mean, you kind of used it as a stopgap kind of way, as use your teaching thing. But looking around a place like this, and I mean, I obviously got my own ideas, but trying to get as many young people aspiring to come to places like this, I mean, it's pretty important. I feel, it's there's so many underrepresented groups that don't come to university or don't think university's for them, or any kind of higher education, apprenticeships, or whatever. So, yeah. So you were with us for over a year and a half?
Yeah, no, it's only a year actually.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So it feels like longer though. I mean, it did go by quickly in the end, doesn't it? But no, only for a year. But yeah, you're exactly right. Such an important role. Trying to get those underrepresented groups. Sort of more. Well, like I say, as much as anything, is to know that they can go to higher education, isn't it? And kind of just actually let them know what their options are. And it's then their choice whether they want to actually go through with it or not. But just knowing that the university is for people like them, for everybody, is just so important. It's,
Well, and our role, because we were externally funded, we had to be impartial. So even though we worked under the UEA umbrella, we were trying to encourage young people to look at all forms of further and higher education. So, and not just be biased towards the UEA. I mean, we can give it as an option as a local university for kids who can't or don't want to leave home. But do you have any standout moments or memories from? It doesn't have to be with the young people. We can even be with your colleagues, but going bowling or something. I don't know.
bowling
Do you have
Christmas.
Do you have any fond memories?
Yeah, I mean, lots. I don't, I don't know necessarily about sort of specific ones that stand out as such, but just the, in particular, doing lots of the more targeted kind of one-to-one work and small groups work is I always found really kind of rewarding. Just being able to actually sit and talk with the young people and actually, figure out what it is that they're actually interested in, and what they want to do and what they actually see themselves doing in the future. And it's those kind of, and being able to just help them with those decisions and let them know what's out there, and whether that's helping them with doing the kind of personal statement work and that kind of thing, or just the kind of small chats that you might have either in specific sessions or just after you've given a talk or something, those little chats about, I didn't know that you could do this, or I think that's they're the bits that kind of really you really kind of stick out the most, I think.
That's it, isn't it? It's all about guiding, really. I mean,
that's it.
Not trying to push an agenda or anything like that, but saying to the students, throughout our work, we show them all the options.
Exactly.
Apprenticeships, higher education, further education, and then something would click with them, and then off they go. So I think my fond memory is so far. There's been a young year 13 lad. They wouldn't think they're young anymore, but 17, 18. But he had no clue what he wanted to do. He was a bit directionless. He was very stressed and anxious about what he was going to do afterwards. So we had to look at apprenticeships in kind of things that he might want to be interested in, and work through his confidence to apply for things. Call people up, ask questions, go to open days and stuff like that. And and after about 3 attempts, he actually ended up getting a place on a degree apprenticeship.
That's great.
Going from that directionless, not knowing what you want to do, to a degree apprenticeship. So I think that was, a singular win is what makes it all worthwhile, really, isn't it? And then now he's going to go on and do amazing things and get a degree out of it as well.
Yeah, amazing.
So it's incredible. Right, Connor, challenge for you, right?
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. So this is the last thing we're going to do. Called We Are All Geographers, and this is how we link all guests together.
Right.
Now, my last chat was with Katie Nicolau, who's a broadcast meteorologist and science communicator in Michigan, in the United States.
Okay.
I don't know if people managed to get through that chat because we were nuts.
Right.
We were like two geeks. She's a sci-fi nerd as well, and weather nerds. So we well, you know what I was saying about my kids go absolutely wacko. Well, we were like worse than my kids. But once we calmed down and had our fun, and I asked Katie what word she would like you to talk about for 30 seconds.
Okay.
So you've got a max of 30 seconds. Is the word consequential?
Consequential. Right.
So it could be in the frame of what you're doing. It could be based on what we chat about. It could be just random stuff about the word consequential. It's completely up to you.
Excellent.
But the only rule is that you've got 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
So we got our little timer on the dictaphone.
Okay.
So when you start,
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. See if you can get going at 30.
30. Okay.
Okay. So the word consequential, Connor.
Okay. Well, I think actually, so relating it, going from what I'm looking at in terms of earthquakes, why don't we'll spin back to that as this is the end. So I'm, as I say, going to be looking at the long-term kind of stress build-ups on faults kind of over a long period of time before these big earthquakes happen. And I think I'll talk about why earthquakes are so difficult. We talk about how difficult or almost impossible they are to actually predict. We give forecasts of what might happen, but you can't actually predict that there is going to be an earthquake next week, say, because there's just such a huge number of factors that go into when and where an earthquake happens, and it's a consequential. It's a consequence of all of these different, the different strains building up from different plates, moving, earthquakes happening in other locations that release pressure on the crust, and depending on where you are in the world and what the composition of the crust is, and
I'm going to stop you.
Okay.
You went a bit over 30 seconds, but I thought I'd give you a bit of extra time. This is what you were saying was interesting. No, well done. So, right, but the good news is that now you get to come up with a word for someone else now. So it could be anything you like.
Okay.
And we're going to have our next guest have a go at it for 30 seconds.
Excellent.
Roughly.
Well, do you know what? I'm looking at a little QR code scanner thing here in front of me, and it's got the word exploring on it. So I think that'll be nice. Exploring.
Okay, folks, so tune in next time for my next guest who's going to have a go over the word exploring for 30 seconds. Right, this is fantastic. So, Conor, last thing then is to say, is there anybody you want to say hi to?
Hi, well, whoever's listening.
Jenny Barkey might be listening. She was a guest on this podcast a few months back. All that team of us who went down to the Royal Society in London and did the volcano thing. Yeah,
great week that was. Yeah.
Go and say hi to them. And if people want to follow what you do, I mean, I know you've got a Twitter account, or God knows what they're calling it nowadays. Yeah. But so where can people find you if they want to follow you?
I mean, Rutland Conor, Rutland Conor on Twitter.
Yeah, one N.
Yeah, that's important, one N. So you find me there. I'm not overly active, but I do post the odd thing every now and then. So give me a little follow and see what I'm up to. That's about it, I think, for that.
Well, thanks for bearing with this. I know when I asked you to do this, you're like, oh my god, all right, Kit, just because I know you. That's fine, but no, it's just also another excuse just to catch a bit of time with you and catch up over a bit of lunch and a bit of flat white latte. Yeah,
that's it. Good to catch up and have a little chat.
I'm going to tuck into my gluten-free banana cake.
Lovely.
Thanks, Conor.
Cheers, Kit.
Thank you so much for listening. We hope you had fun. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe so more stories and experiences can drop into your favourite podcast app. If you fancy being a guest or have any feedback, follow us on Twitter at coffeegeogpod and send us a DM. Or you could email coffeeandgeog@geogramblings.com. Until next time, keep geogging.